Minister to the House, and I also would like to welcome the bill that we have before us. It's an area that before I was a senator I didn't really have any appreciation for. I didn't have an understanding. I didn't have anybody in my family who was deaf or hard of hearing. So I am on a journey in trying to understand and appreciate this issue. For me, obviously, you know, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which Ireland signed in 2007, contains obligations towards native sign languages, and I'm very cognizant of that. I think we need to be mindful of the needs of the deaf and the hard of hearing community, and we need to look at improving our systems for consultations, particularly, Minister, in talking and meeting with different families in particular, because of my role in children's rights. I've been raised with me about legal services, and access to legal services has been a significant and huge issue. Also, Minister, while we have you here before us, is also in recognition of the visiting teacher service. Again and again, I'm hearing from parents around the country that there's not enough resources in the visiting teacher services if we do really want to develop and ensure that children have the different options that are available to them, including, and importantly, Irish Sign Language. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to go and see a film, 95 Decibels, which Irish deaf kids were running, and I met many parents there in the Happy New Year campaign, and I mentioned about the bill before the House today. And some of those parents have chosen a route of cochlear implants, and they did, Minister, want me to convey their sincerest thanks. I was able to bring them the discussions we had at the Health and Children Committee last week, and the fact that the government does plan to roll it out over 2 years. But the message they gave me was they're part of the community, and Irish Sign Language is a very important part of being part of that community, and that we have to ensure that we do resource and support, cognizant that there are different ways. In the same way, it was illustrated to me that a parent may, with their child, without any hearing difficulty, will teach their child to speak, will teach their child to participate, to develop. There'll be different methodologies used. And we need to allow people to have that choice. But also, as I said, it's really important when you look at state services, legal services, those facilities. We should not be excluding people because of their use of Irish Sign Language, which, as I said, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities obliges Ireland to recognise. A question I do have for those who are more knowledgeable than me in preparing for today, I did look at the example of New Zealand, which in 2006 made sign language of their own a national language, but they've actually seen a deterioration since of the use of sign language in New Zealand. So I'd be really interested to understand, because I would hope that if we were to recognise, and I'd be supportive of recognising Irish Sign Language, how do we ensure, you know, recognition obviously isn't just the answer, a tick box and saying, we recognise, isn't that great? And then it sits on a shelf and nothing actually happens to it. So I would be concerned if I read, and I have done quite considerable reading about the cases in New Zealand, and now we can see quite a significant less number of New Zealanders can use sign language since it was legally recognised. I think it is important that we ensure that there is early detection for babies and young children. And we do need to give guidance and support to parents. For me, Minister, on Saturday, to hear that journey of discovery for a parent, you know, to realise, you know, when they call their baby's name and they just assume that the baby is caught up in their own little world, but to realise that there's hearing difficulties or total loss of hearing. And that journey for a parent who, as I said, myself as a senator, I didn't have exposure. I don't know where the supports are. So how do we get those supports? How do we ensure that those choices are given? We do see the significant take-up of sign language by family members and other friends who surround somebody who is deaf or hard of hearing. We also see that people will use multiple, as I said, lip reading. With the new development of technology, there are many different ways. So I think, Minister, you know, I stand here, I want to be supportive of recognition of Irish Sign Language. I am going to listen more carefully to debate. I'm erring on the side of voting with the bill that is here, unless I hear more convincing argumentation. And because I do believe we have to do more, and it maybe just to also note in recognition that our National Theatre, the Abbey, has put on Irish Sign Language interpretive performance for each of its plays for the past 13 years. So there are ways that, you know, our National Theatre, but other bodies are doing it. And I think today should also be a call to those types of organisations and to all of us. I'm thinking of the organisations I'm involved in to see are there ways in which we also can ensure that where needed or where appropriate, that Irish Sign Language is available. And I think that's something that's a challenge for each of us as senators in our role that we do. So, as I said, I stand here in support, but I do very much welcome and look forward to hearing what you have to say, Minister. And I do want to just echo the thanks from the Happy New Year parents that I met. I think you probably hear a lot, Minister, of all the difficulties and the problems, the warmth of their smiles and their happiness. I cannot express to you their thanks that they asked me to convey to you. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Senator van Turnhout.